there is a hell of a lot of life dissatisfaction out there. Now, this may seem a little hard to believe, particularly when all you have to do is look at your social media platforms, Instagram or Facebook, and all you see are people postulating about how amazing their lives are and, how blessed they are and how happy they are. But you have to bear in mind that you are always looking at what is possibly an exaggerated highlight reel of somebody else's life. I mean, if you think about it, you never put up pictures of when you're feeling shitty or when you're feeling negative. You only put up pictures which you think reflect well on you. Now, the result is that we tend to fluctuate between either having a chronic low sense of self-worth or an inflated sense of ego. And these both work against us because basically it's a double whammy. You either feel like you're inadequate in comparison to other people, and then your ego steps in and says, oh right, well, it's everybody else's fault. And we tend to fail to recognize the role that we play in our own unhappiness and life dissatisfaction. And it's not saying that, kind of your unhappiness is your fault, but it's just that we fail to recognize the way in which our biases and our stories that we've constructed over the space of a lifetime are hindering our ability to have a little bit of perspective, to be a little bit objective and proactive in changing our life. Because as long as we blame other people, it's like as if we're helpless and we don't actually have to do anything to change our circumstances. Whereas when we step up to the plate and take responsibility for how we feel, or at least part of the responsibility for how we feel, we can take the necessary steps to change the trajectory of our life. And I suppose one of my favorite biases would be the fundamental attribution error, because I feel it's a great example of the way in which we sometimes think which doesn't help us. And the fundamental attribution error basically says that when we're successful or something good goes on in our life, we tend to think it's because we're pretty amazing. And if something goes wrong in our life, we tend to think it's because somebody else fucked up. But on the other hand, when other people do very well in life, we tend to think that they were just lucky. And when they do badly, we tend to think it's due to an inherent character flaw of theirs. And again, that's just an example of how skewed our thoughts can be. Likewise, we have a real attraction to anything negative. Now, we may think that we don't, but we actually do. We always focus on the negative side of things. We always hear the negative perspective, and we always tend to view ourselves in a negative light. So we're working against all of these factors all of the time. Likewise, if we have experienced any emotional turmoil in our formative years, this works against us because it basically tells us stories about how trustworthy other people are, how capable we are of being able to do certain things or achieve certain things. It can really hold us back in life. We also have this massive kind of construct coming at us, particularly from our social media platforms, that life has to be amazing and that we have to be happy all the time and that we have to be positive all the time. And the reality is that's not feasible. I mean, life is just a whole kind of up and down journey. It's a roller coaster. It has peaks and troughs. Sometimes things are amazing, sometimes things are shite, and that's just the way it is. And when we can find more acceptance of the up and down nature of life, we stop fighting our reality, because ultimately when we're told that we always have to be positive, that we always have to be upbeat, that we should always feel happy, that we have to achieve success, that we have to look amazing all the time, we find it very hard to sit with where we're currently at. We find it very hard to negotiate strong negative emotions, which are part and parcel of the tapestry of life. I mean, you can't avoid them, whereas we do tend to try to suppress them or deny them, and this can be the root of so many mental and emotional health issues, and the reason so many people are unhappy, dissatisfied with life, and struggling with things like depression and anxiety. However, that being said, To change, it's basically just creating an awareness, and this is possible for everyone to do. To become more in tune with your emotional experience, to become more aware of the stories that you're telling yourself. And this isn't like a concept that's miles away. This is something you can introduce on a day-to-day basis, and you will gradually start to feel more accepting of your life. And as you create that acceptance, you're more likely to be drawn to things that actually reflect your true values and your true purpose in life. Because so much of what we do these days is based on what we think other people will approve of, or what we have seen to, apparently make other people happy and successful. And so we chase it, and we go down all of these rabbit holes and find ourselves just feeling like, okay, what the hell was that about? I actually feel worse now. I actually feel like a failure because I haven't achieved what I thought I was going to acquire by pursuing this dream. But the reality is, we're pursuing somebody else's dream. And the more you're aware of your internal experience and accept your reality for what it is, the more you will be able to tap into your intuition, tap into your inner guide, tap into what your core values, beliefs are, and follow the trajectory that was always meant for you, and fulfill your true essence as a person. If you are struggling with life dissatisfaction or your mental health, if you find yourself feeling unhappy and looking at other people and wondering where it all went wrong, I can help you. Get in touch with me on my website. It's fundamentals.ie.